Hello, my name is Trydar. Today I'm going to be showing you how to build a Roman basilica in Minecraft. Let's get started. So let's start by taking a look at the basilica here. The interior of this building is going to be the Roman Basilica Nova, with just a couple of minor changes, but it's mostly faithful. The biggest changes I've made to this building is, of course, the exterior. So out front here, you can see we have a nice period-correct Roman Corinthian portico. It's just standard Corinthian. It's not the compound order though. We do have two guardian royal lions on either side of the staircase. A couple of ornamental trees here and there just to fill out the extra space there, so we can have this thing be a big rectangle. Because you know, Minecraft, that's the easiest shape to lay down for a foundation. So, it's lots easier into road networks that way also. So if we go around to the side here, we can see what makes this building different from the previous versions of a Roman Basilica I've done. The previous version was basically a much older design of a basilica, but this one here is going to be from about the early 300s AD. It's otherwise known as the Basilica of Constantine and Maxentius, or sometimes just the Basilica of Constantine, but also mostly it's known as Basilica Nova, or in other words, the new Basilica. Probably because of the new design. But Roman architecture was developing well into the time of Constantine as well, so it didn't just all stop after they made the Pantheon. I think the Pantheon was about, 200 years old or so? Or maybe a little less. When this was put up. In fact, it's probably about, no, I don't know. It was definitely approaching 200, I think. But we can see on the side here something different. Of course, we got the traditional Roman arches and the pointy roofs and everything. But you will notice the arches here supporting what, for the time, Romanesque architecture, you can only remove so much wall to replace so much window. It's not Gothic in that respect. And we do have a couple of narrow windows up here behind the portico. But the Corinthian facade ends just right here, and it transitions into a more standard design of the time back here. And of course, being a good Roman building, it's on a high podium up here as well to get to. And one of the key features of this building, and there's a couple of interesting things that first appear in the Basilica Nova that I'm aware of that don't appear in earlier buildings. There may have been earlier examples, there probably were, but they haven't survived to the modern day, so we don't know what they were. But one of the key innovations in this building is, of course, this right here. Now, if you're familiar with the Temple of Time building, you will recognize this here as a flying buttress, or at least a nascent version of a flying buttress. Because they had to do something to keep the interior and everything held up, because you'll see once we go inside the reasoning for that. But as far as I know, this is the first extant or surviving building that had flying buttresses here as part of the design to help hold up the walls. And back here as well, we have just an apse back here and a couple more windows right there. And of course, the other side is just the same as the previous one. Also in this building, something I do now and then in larger buildings, we'll find that I poked a little hole in the roof here along the ridge line and placed a bit of glass there. And also along the top here to allow some natural light into the building. So at least in the daytime, you won't need a ton of torches. So if we get a little altitude here, we can see this does have a very complicated roof pattern. It's one of the more complicated roof patterns I've tried to do that's not a cathedral building. But of course, it is a basilica, which means that actually this building here was taken in later times, and all the motifs and structural elements that first appear in here end up being part of the Romanesque churches that were built later on. In fact, you'll be able to see a lot of things in here that to this day appear in St. Peter's Basilica also. So I think we've taken enough time looking around the exterior. So let's slowly make our way in the building underneath the Corinthian portico here. This is something I've added to the design, by the way. Basilica Nova, it generally faced out 90 degrees over here. I think the entrance was actually, it was along this way. But in keeping with, well, I just can't help but redesign some things and fix some things I think were mistakes. So we, in later centuries, basilicas were all oriented this way, is what they eventually settled on. So I've kind of modified that to be backwards compatible with this, as it were. So we have our standard Corinthian portico and everything. So if we go up our flights of steps here, we of course come to the door. Right there. And I neglected to actually put a door in this, now that I've come to think of it. So we'll just open a couple of blocks, and then we will take a look inside. With the assistance of some potions to light up everything, I think you can immediately see what makes this building quite special. We, of course, have the central nave here with 3 groin vaults up there. I made them into ribbed groin vaults, even though ribbing didn't really come in until a few hundred years later. Of course, we've got the apse at the end as well. This is where Emperor Constantine's statue would have been put. The remains of it is still in Rome. It's a really, really big statue. It would have been a big sitting statue down there. But this is the place also where the altars of churches are put now today instead. And of course, we have the nave down here where everyone would sit. But there wouldn't have been rows of pews in here, which would have been standing area back in Roman times. But of course, we can see the groin vaults up there as well. We can see all the arches and all the structural elements, what make the building unique. We can see the arch going across here and there as well, sitting on, of course, Corinthian pilasters. We don't have any pillars in this building. Everything is pilasters. Except on the outside portico. We just got 4 pillars out there, but we can see in here what makes this building unique is we have these 3 little side bays over here, as it were, that sit on 3 large arches right here. And in the Basilica Nova, these are actually coffered barrel vaults, but you can't really do coffering at such a small scale and have it look decent. They have like interesting octagonal coffers, I think. But what I've chosen to do here instead is modify this to be a rib vault to echo what's done here along the center. And of course, you can walk between these as well. We have a little niche down here with a half dome. And 2 arches right here as well, on the side piers and everything. These elements here are extremely structural to hold up the building and everything, and 2 little apses on the end here as well. So this is right behind the portico where we came in. There's a standard flat wall there, but of course we have the circular, the semicircular apse down here on the end as well. And there's not really enough standing of Basilica Nova to know if there were windows here or not. Some reconstructions have it, some don't. But I've decided to put them in here. And we've lost our potion here, so we can see the building now in more natural lighting setting. I think I've actually removed all the torches from the model here, just so it won't confuse us when we get to building things. But we can see here that all we're seeing now is the natural daylight lighting. Well, except for, there's glowstone in the floor to keep things from spawning. But up here, we can see the natural daylight. We can see the light we're getting in from the windows. And remember that thing I talked about where we poked holes in the ceiling up there? We can see this central section is lit up a bit more than it is down here. And that's the Minecraft lighting engine. That's just how that works. So, and we have a couple of those in here as well. I think we have a total of 9. Well, maybe, I think I've actually put one up here as well. So we have like 10 of these little hidden lighting things. And as you can see here, we've made a feature out of it. We've integrated them into the structure of the building. Right there up top where the rib vaulting meets and everything. And the nave and on the side aisles here. But Romanesque architecture tended to be a little bit dark. because of, well, the purpose of Gothic architecture is to remove as much wall and replace it with as much light as possible. But but what makes that possible is to have the flying buttresses on the outside, which you saw, but also to have the Gothic vault, the pointy Gothic arches. The circular arches tend to require a bit more masonry, so there's only so much wall we can remove. Like on the side here, you can see we removed quite a bit of wall right there and placed that with generous windows, and also up here as well in the clerestory. And we can see the roof is, everything is pretty tight fitting to the structure as much as I can make it be. But in some sections we can see, like back here, where the ceilings and the domes and everything, we can't really place lighting back there. It's a little bit dark here behind the portico as well. But there are places up here where in the details for the Corinthian entablature and everything, I'm just going to place some down here to show you what you can do later on as we go. I think you're probably going to want to do this if you're building it in survival and everything. So if we just drop down some torches there, we can see that makes a pretty big difference in the wall lighting and everything immediately. You might also want to place some around here as well. I wouldn't place it on the column. I would place it, on the wall beside that, and that lights things pretty good. I mean, that was only, that's less than I don't know, might have been less than a dozen torches. So it goes a pretty good ways. Because it'll get a lot darker in here at night, except on the floor and everything. But we do want our eyes to be naturally drawn up to the vaulting and everything that we see up here, because this is the key feature of the building. And this is a very Roman type of building, because Greek buildings were all about the exterior. That's why the Parthenon looks so good from a distance and everything. But what separates the Parthenon from, say, the Pantheon and Basilica Nova here is that you can see all the money for this building was spent on the interior, because the exterior of this was rather drab compared to what we've got going on in here. I did add a more ornamental Corinthian portico over here on that side, but when the building was put up in the 300s, the early 300s AD, the entrances, of course, would have been over here, or maybe well, it's just somewhere along this side here. And there would have been a lot less ornamentation on the exterior of the building. It would have looked, it was headed a lot more in the direction of the Hagia Sophia than it was back towards the Pantheon for that. Even though that's one of my quibbles with the Hagia Sophia. It's one of my favorite Roman interiors, but the exterior is really, really plain. One of the reasons people have said that the exteriors ended up being more plain was because of Christian influence. They wanted churches to not look like the old Roman pagan temples. They wanted to look like something new, so they dropped all the ornamentation on the exterior anyway. But as you can see, they still spent a lot of money on the interior. So this is just in the days of Constantine. So it was really before large-scale churches started to be built. So I don't know if that reasoning is accurate or not, but it is a theory that I've heard. But it seems like Roman exteriors were getting more and more simple as time goes on, and a lot more complicated on the interior here, as you can see, because from the exterior, we don't really get a good sense of what is on the inside until we walk inside, and then we're just really wowed by everything as well. And as just a side note, I know I've talked a lot for this, but this is one of my favorite buildings, so I hope you'll indulge me for a bit more narration on this, where we start the tutorial proper. In here, we can see a lot of basic things that end up being elements of the Gothic cathedrals. Because you've seen on the outside, we saw the flying buttresses. We know those are key to Gothic cathedrals. But also the vaulting here in the middle. These would have been just painted on for the ribs, but I made them more three-dimensional. But they would have ended up being, let me have the potion again. They would have ended up being more three-dimensional up here later on, and also rectangular instead of square. And also the side pillars here, you might think that those aren't in Gothic cathedrals either, but they actually are. Because over time, as the centuries went on, these tended to get taller and taller and taller, and they just really got stretched out, and there were more and more pilasters put on. So if you will look really closely at Gothic cathedrals, you will see what would have been in this building like one really large Corinthian pilaster. You will see a really tall and skinny Corinthian pilasters, and you will see not just one column, but you will see multiple columns put on squares. That's how they get the shape that they do. But they're so thin and delicate and stylized that you don't realize that they actually are Corinthian columns. They're just a little bit different in design from what we've been used to seeing, at least in earlier extant forms of Roman architecture. Another thing we're missing in this building that would come in later would be the triforium for cathedrals, because we have just the bottom section here, and then we have the clerestory, the top section, up here as well with the windows. But if you recall from at least the Temple of Time tutorial that I've done, where I went over Gothic architecture in a little bit more detail, we of course had the lower section of windows, then we had a transition section, and then we had the upper section of windows. The only thing we're missing in here is the transition section. That'd be the triforium. And that's because of the roof design here, because these have barrel vaults, as you can see here. We've got 6 barrel vaults, 3 on either side of this, and that's just a difference in the design. But you remember in the cathedrals, though, that there is still the arches between those. So this is the first really good appearance of that. But they would be a lot closer together because you could really get two sections of colonnade in between these if you use the pointed arches as opposed to the larger rounded arches. But of course, it's only the 300s AD, so they haven't invented those quite yet. So we're still using the rounded arches and everything for that. And I probably talked your ear off, so I think that we'll just take one little last look around here and then start talking about doing the building itself. But as I said, this is one of my favorite buildings, so I do have to talk about it a bit. And I think the floor here is mostly actually recycled from the Pantheon, actually. I think that's what I did here. I don't think there's really anything much left of the floor in Basilica Nova in Rome to go take a look at. The building has suffered quite a lot over the years. Like, all this central section here is completely gone. This side over here, I think, is completely gone too. We just really have left these 3 arches here. And that's pretty much it, because those are made out of actually formed concrete. So that's pretty much all we have left of that. Like, everything above the arches here has pretty much fallen down or been taken down. And all of the marble that would have been on the walls and everything has been stripped off. So there's just brick left and everything as well. Brick faced concrete is all that's left. So the building has suffered quite a lot over the years. So it's not in. There's not a whole lot left of it, so that's why there's disagreement about exactly how it looked. But yeah, that is the Roman Basilica Nova, the new basilica, otherwise known as the Basilica of Constantine and Maxentius. My version of it anyway, for Minecraft. As I said, the only real major change I made was to change the orientation of the building and put this Corinthian portico on the side over here. Even though the one in Rome doesn't have that, probably didn't have that. But I wanted to make it just a little bit more splendid than the original models I've seen. There's not really that much of the exterior surviving either. So, some of these things we have to take a guess. And I get a lot of my fun in building these things and taking the old building and see if we can just make it just a little bit more splendid than it was before. All right, so you've seen the materials list. If you have skipped over that, that's the first. It's going to be the first little couple of seconds in the video with the materials list. The dimensions are, of course, at the top of the screen on that as well. And whatever dimension that is, that's going to be the rectangle that we are going to take a look at here for the first section of the tutorial, at least the first part. It's going to be a multi-part tutorial series, probably two, maybe 3 parts, depending. So I've also optimized this building here. Like every time you see some of these little squares here, these are just filler blocks. I will include the number of filler blocks in the tutorial, but you can just leave these as air. In other words, these are blocks that you don't have to build. I use these blocks to help you count things as sort of a double check as we go, because I think it'd be a lot easier, especially when we get to the smaller sections, for you to look at it and count it that way instead of me counting it here, because sometimes very rarely I will make a mistake and be off by 1. But be that as it were, the first thing I think you need to do is I should say the dimensions don't include down here this extra little bit of netherrack and grass back down here. At least I don't think that they do. Maybe they did. I'll have to double check that before I make that materials list. But anyway, that's the building tour done. So I'll go ahead and remark that this is, of course, available in the video description for both Java and Bedrock versions if you're just here for the schematic and the download. But if you want the rest of the tutorial series like I normally do them and everything, maybe as a companion as you get the building built and everything, we're going to be doing that, of course, in the standard way. I think today we're probably... I've waffled on quite a bit about the interior of the building. So I think we're probably going to get to this section here, just of the podium. There's going to be quite a lot, and then we'll be putting the building on top of that. We'll have to see, though. And I'll cover the Royal Lion here as well, even though this has its own tutorial. And the Acroterion up there also has its own little short video of a time-lapse. But anyway, so the first thing you want to do is mark down the rectangle of whatever the dimensions were to start with. I haven't looked at it yet, so I don't remember. But as you can see here, now you want to count that dimension out 3 times to get it correct, because this is an extremely foundational phase of the building, so we do want to make sure that we don't make mistakes on that. And let's just start here at the corner. So we can see we've got the chiseled stone brick there, and then we've got 3 stairs and a chiseled, 3 stairs and a chiseled, and then we start with the cobbled deep slate for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks. And then we have a straight run all the way across of cobblestone stairs and cobblestone behind that. Right there, just do that straight all the way across, where we have another 8 blocks of cobbled deep slate, and then the rest of the little garden wall here, just the same. So somewhere around the middle here, let me see if I can figure out. It's probably right there. Yeah, that looks right. So if we divide the building in twain by a center line here, all good Roman buildings have a center line like this. We can see that what's on the left is going to be a mirror image of what's on the right. Okay, so as we go, I'm going to show you what's here on the left, but all you have to do is replicate those numbers exactly as you built them on the right again. Okay, so if I go back over here and get a little altitude before we get away from the building, we can see if we split the building in 2, it's exactly symmetrical except for the Acroterion, all the way down the ridge line of the roof, all the way to the top of the building. See? All right. So let's do the garden wall now. So let's turn here. We've got 3 stairs and a block, 3 stairs and a block, 3 stairs and a block, and 3 stairs and a block, and then 1 stair here, or however many that is there. going to be what? 3, 6, 9, 12. 12, 30, 40, 50, what, 17 blocks? 18 from the torch. And then here we have the cobbled deep slate for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blocks. And then turn and go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 15, 16, 17, and 18 blocks to get to the red carpet there. And then behind that, we just have this very simple pattern of gardening here. Now, I like to use red nether brick, red nether brick. I like to use red nether rack for mulch. I think it makes a really good contrast with the green and everything. And we just put just simple lines of the leaf blocks behind that, and then squares, and then a bit of grass. And then for our 2 ornamental trees, we just got the tree trunks there for those that are going to end up being these. Very simple tree design. Okay, and then from here, you just want to do a straight run of cobbled deep slate right on top of the numbers you counted out for the foundation base. And then all the way back here to the back, where we just have 2 blocks and then 4 stairs for the garden wall. And then behind that, we have another long garden wall of 1 module here of 3 blocks and 1 block and 3 stairs. 1 block and 3 stairs. That would be a module. So we want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those modules. And then another full block. And then back here, if we extend our center line all the way through the building, it should come out right here, where we have, counting from the center line, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2, 1, 1, 1, and 1. And what? 1, it's going to be a long one. Of what? 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 blocks to get all the way back there. And then behind that here, you can see we have just a very simplified pattern here at the back to fill in the extra space we have at the back here. Just because I always like to try and square off the buildings, and when I have extra space like this, you can see here the apps had to extend back a bit farther from the building so we could have the windows work and everything. But just to fill that in, you can see I've just squared off the entire building into a big rectangle and filled in the rest with ornamental gardening. All right. So once you have done all of that, you want to replicate it from the left side onto the right side of the building. And you can forget all the filler material down there. You can just leave that as air blocks if you want to. You could build yourself some rooms down there as well, I suppose, because that is going to be quite a lot of space down there. But do remember to light it up with some torches now and then. Otherwise, you're going to make yourself a very large unintentional mob farm. And I don't do mob farm tutorials, so we don't want that. So let's go back over here. Let's continue on. I want to get the podium done, at least in today's video. I think half of the video was me gushing about the interior of the building. I hope you enjoyed that, though. I did try and include all the relevant historical and architectural details. Now, I know a lot of you like that. Of course, some of you probably don't like that, but, be that as it may. So here we want to place down the smooth stone slabs right on top of these here. Every place we had one of these here, or just put down those torches, you want to put down a slab on top of that. And then extend up your tree trunk here by 1 block. And then extend up all the cobbled deep slate right here, all the way around the building. Add a block there by 1 additional block. So let's take a look at that. You can see here we're just stacking up the cobbled deep slate, just like so. Then turn the corner there, and then do it here as well, around the circular apps at the back. Well, Minecraft, this is as good of a circle, as a semicircle as we can make, with blocks. And put on the caps for your garden walls back there, and that's all there is to that. Back here at the front, we want to build up our staircase a little bit. So we want to go back here for another flight of cobblestone stairs, and then set back 2 blocks of diorite, and then run a line of cobblestone just straight across that for our next section of stairs. Just right there across the middle. All right, next section. Go ahead and extend up your tree trunks right there for all of those. On top of the cobbled deep slate, now what you want to do is place stone brick stairs right here beginning at the corner, and then we want to transition to full stone bricks right here. And then just go around every place we have the cobblestone, the cobbled deep slate. You want to place the stairs right on top of those. And I have some extra cobblestone behind this, but I don't think you necessarily need to build that, but it would be more convenient for the next phase, I suppose, if you want to add that. That's going to be in the materials list anyway. Just like so. When we get over here, we do the best we can. We've got some full blocks of stone bricks here, and just stairs in front of those. And then just straight stairs across that. All right, back here for the stairs again, we've got just a straight run of cobblestone stairs just right across there. And then a run of cobblestone behind that. And that's all there is to it. So for the trees here, extend up your tree trunks. Put 4 leaf blocks around that for all of those. And that's all there is to the tree. Here, now, of course, we have a little setback. And we, on top of all the cobblestone, we want to now go around and place down these blocks of tuff. I really like tuff. It's one of my new favorite blocks. It pairs with cobblestone and stone bricks and the cobbled deep slate so well. And the diorite and everything. This little section here is just a wonderful section of what I like to do for the Roman buildings. This is actually, as far as I'm aware, I mean, it may have been, but I don't think the exterior of this building was garishly painted like a lot of the old Roman temples tended to be. If they had put a Corinthian portico on it, I think they probably would have done that. But as I said, this is getting into the third, fourth, and so on centuries, where they kind of stopped doing that, and the exteriors became a bit more drab, you could say, and unpainted, and later on just completely undecorated, which I think was a step too far. But be that as it may. So here we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks of tuff, and then just do another run of cobblestone stairs for the front stairs all the way across there. And you can see behind here, directly behind where we placed all the stone brick stairs, we want to have another layer of tuff. All the way to the back. Then turn the corner here. And then right behind and on top of the stairs here. Right there for that, and there's our center line. So that's all there is to look at for that phase. Let's go on to the next one. Start here for the tree. Put 8 blocks of leaves there and a tree trunk in the middle for all those trees. And then directly on top of all the tuff we just placed down, put down a layer of diorite on top of that with an additional block here for the stair. And then do the cobblestone stairs straight across there again. And now that we've gotten to 3 levels up, we then want to do another setback here of 2 diorite blocks, and then a run of cobblestone across that where we will place the next stairs. All right. So for the sake of completeness, let me go back here and look at the back real quick. We can see here, as I said, place the diorite directly on top of the tuff. You want to do that for 2 layers of thickness. As you can see here, 2 layers of diorite now. Right on top of the first layer we place down. And here's the design for the tree. I'll just place down a little red carpet here to illustrate that. where the leaf blocks go, and then there's just a tree trunk in the center. All right, so back here, we're now to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blocks of diorite, and then another run of cobblestone stairs straight across there. And that's all there is to that one. Let's go on to the next one. So on top of all the diorite we place down, you want to place down a second layer of tuff. In other words, what we did here, we want to do again right there. Except it's extended back all the way here for 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blocks. And do a run of cobblestone stairs across there. And that's all there is to that. Here for the trees, you want to now make this little cross pattern right there with the leaves. And then after that, you then want to just make a square again with the leaves for the tree again. All right, for the podium, what we want to do is on top of all of this tuff that you put down, you want to go around and put down a layer of diorite right on top of that. Okay? And then in front of that diorite, we then want to do an upside down stone brick stair run here as a cornice. Well, kind of. It's more like a string course, really. For the podium, we want to have a full block of stone brick stairs here, but then we want to use of stone bricks, and then we want to use upside down stone brick stairs here. Just like this, just wrapping them around the podium, like so, turning the corner here, continuing the run. Then run that all the way to the back, turn the corner again, and then back into this corner here. The upside down stairs here, by the way, should mirror the right side ones up we have back down here. You want to use that as a check on yourself. Okay? And behind that, we have a few extra blocks of diorite poking out. I don't remember if these are visible or not, so you might want to go ahead and place them. 5 blocks there and 2 on either side, and then just a straight run of diorite here. And then just a straight run of diorite along the side. Here we can see that we have a bit more diorite. We'll take a look at that for the moment. That's going to be the base for the Corinthian portico. And here, of course, we have our last run of cobblestone stairs right here. And this will bring us up to the level, to almost the level of the base of the basilica itself. It's almost out of view. We can see it off in the misty mist over there. Looking quite nice. Very elegant, I have to say. But over here we can see, you remember we had the 2 guardian lions? Well, behind that, this is where the bases for those are going to go. And those are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 12 by 15. So what was that? What did I say? 5 by 15? Right there, of course, for both bases. And here we have the cutouts that are the bases for the Corinthian columns. That little pattern there in the red, you want to do those little crosses. You want to stamp that 4 times there across the front. Of course, the intercolumnation distance is going to be 3 blocks. Just like so. And then, of course, the intercolumnation again, 3 blocks to the back for the pilasters that you want to do right there. So let's now divide the building with the center line. You remember the center line we talked about. So somewhere here is going to be where the door is. So instead of doing all the counting, I think you can very clearly see how many blocks of diorite and not diorite to place down. They go across here. It's a regular repeating pattern. We got a little corner plaster here, and then 4 blocks, and then it just goes straight, because this is where we have to somewhat awkwardly join the Corinthian facade to the rest of the building, which was distinctly not Corinthian. which is, I mean, this is one another thing that makes it, you know, a stereotypical Roman building. I mean, there are a few things that make stereotypical Roman buildings. The first thing is it has to be on a podium. The second thing is it has to have the Corinthian order in it somewhere, as a general rule. I mean, that'll work for 95% of Roman buildings. There's a few not like that, though. Let's see. Also, the standard round Roman arches, of course. And what is it? Oh, yes. And the facade orientation. We can see right here the Corinthian facade off in the distance right there. Because Roman buildings were generally designed to be viewed from one vantage point only. That's why the side and especially the back of the building is not like the facade I put on it, because you were generally designed to view Roman buildings from one vantage point only, generally along the center line, which is what we're standing on right now here. See, that's why we have the staircase and the lions and everything and the trees. And the Corinthian portico I added here. The Pantheon follows that design because, you know, you can see all the money for the Pantheon was spent on the interior and the front facade. But of course, around back, they actually stuck another building or a couple of other buildings onto the back of it. And indeed, sometimes in Roman temples, they wouldn't even build any porticos or anything at the back. It would just be a straight wall, and sometimes they would just ram it right into a wall or a cliff face, depending on where the building was. Which, of course, not like Greek buildings. Greek buildings had to be perfectly viewed from all exterior angles. Which by the time, by the time the Romans started doing these things, they were like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to make it look pretty from the front. We're going to spend all our money on the inside, so we'll be comfortable. Is basically how that went. So I think we can do one more phase. I think you'll bear with me for that. Here we have the trees again, this little diamond pattern. Once we got to this section here to here, well, really from here to there, the tree is a repeating modular pattern. So we can kind of see that. We've got 2 blocks and a gap, 2 blocks and what'll be another gap. Then we had here, we've got 2 blocks and a gap, but this will end up being, say, 2 blocks and a gap like that. They're just simple repeating patterns. For the pointy Roman cypress trees, we have to have those. So here, let's put down the base for the lion. And I just use gold ore for that. Actually, you can save some materials off this. This interior gold ore is not going to be visible like it is here. So if you just want to do a little rectangle of gold ore there, I think you can optimize the interior a little bit better, save yourself some expense. So after that, what we want to do is on the top of the upside down stone brick stairs here, you want to place cobblestone slabs, just like so, all the way from the base of the Corinthian columns. Just all the way around the building, we want to place the cobblestone slab just right on top of the stairs. There, all the way around the side of the building, just like so. As we slowly get to the back, turn the corner. Right there, and then just right up against what's going to be the next layer of cobbled deep slate behind that. And since we're here, we might as well start right here and put that cobbled deep slate down right behind the slabs, just like so. And then leave a gap here. And then right behind the diorite, you want to run the cobbled deep slate to the corner. Turn the corner and go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. And then we want to have these 2 exterior blocks here. And then go for 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 17 blocks, 2 more blocks again, and then another 17 blocks, 2 blocks, another 17 blocks, 2 blocks, and then 4 blocks here. And then here, I think it's easier for me just to show you the pattern of the cobbled deep slate along the front here. And then here we have 3 more cobblestone stairs right here, right along the center line. And then 3 more cobblestone there. And then I think you're going to want to put another cobblestone there because as you remember, I didn't, well, it's out of range now. I didn't include a door for that. So I think perhaps a nice dark oak door is something you will want to put here in those 2 blocks that I knocked out. But for the moment, you probably want to put another block of, what would fit the pattern? I don't know. Probably another block of obsidian or blackstone down there for that. So here at the front, we want to build up the bottoms of our Corinthian columns. Of course, you don't need the interior here. You just need, what? The 8 blocks of cobbled deep slate right there at the front. And that's all there is to that for the foundation. Now here, for the interior of the building, it's the last thing I'm going to talk about today because it's going to take a while for you to build, so it's a good stopping point. So here, remember, let me get a little bit of altitude. If we divide the building in twain, we can see that what we have here is a repeating floor pattern. But as you can see, the building is kind of superimposed down into the pattern, so it looks more complicated than it actually is. But I'm going to go around here. We're going to start here at the front door at the center line. And I'm going to show you from the top down what the pattern is. And of course, this is where these little filler blocks that I use with the hard edges here enable you to see and build this a lot better than I would otherwise be able to explain it with words. So we're just going to take a slow pan around, look at this here. I think it looks like we have some extra blocks of cobblestone and diorite there in those corners that probably, I don't think that got filled in the pattern. Whoops. Hang on a minute. Oh yeah, it's filled there at the back. Uh-oh. Well, it's our first little mistake in the building. Probably not the last, but definitely the first. I wonder. Did I bring the apps forward, or was that, well, anyway, we should be extending this pattern here back into these blocks there. So I think around here we should have another block of glowstone there. That should be a gold block. Let's see. This here should be calcite. And what? And let's see. I think this should be calcite also, and that should be obsidian. Yeah. Sorry about that. Small mistake. It looks like that got tucked there in the corner, and I didn't see it before I decided the building was finished. So along here, you can see we have some straight runs. And over here, conveniently, behind the 2 block cutouts we had over here on the corner, we have this 8 block insertion here for the pier of the building. And then we just count over for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks. And then we want to place these little footings here for the piers on the inside of the building that are what 4 by 5 with these little 2 extra blocks here at the front, just like so. And then let's continue along the side here. We can see we've got another pier right there with the 8 blocks there, and then the 7 blocks again, and then the 4 by 5 with the 2 extra right there. And then along here at the back again, we have this back here for the 2 apses at the back. The 2 side apses anyway. It's some nice little niches for you to put in some statues or something. And then we have the larger semicircular apse at the back. Right here. So I'll try and view this from multiple angles. to give you enough information to be able to replicate the pattern. Right there. So that's half the building. So we want to replicate that for the other half of the building. So let me get a little bit of altitude and try and fit half of the building inside the frame here. Try the toolbar for a moment. Okay, so I'll try and position the center line here at the bottom. At the bottom of the screen, pretty much. So from the top down, this is the front half of the building. And as we scoot along, you can see the floor pattern just repeats. Just like so. And here is the back half of the building. And remember, as we go, use the extra blocks that I put in for the filler blocks to help you count everything out. This is another foundational phase. It's very important that we have all the numbering correct on this. So that's why I'm spending the last part of the video exclusively on this. And that little bit of extra floor there with the red that I messed up. Sorry. All right, so let's take a look at that now from this angle. And then going towards the back. Like so. And let's get some altitude now and fit the entire thing as much as I can in the frame. Which the higher up I get, I always try and view these things closely because I know probably a lot of you are watching on phones or tablets or something and not full screens. But if you have a larger screen, this is probably a very helpful view. But if you only have a small phone, I can imagine that it's not. So that was the wrong button. There we go. Where's the toolbar? Okay. So I think that is going to be all the time we have for today. Hope you are enjoying the Basilica Nova tutorial so far. It's going to be, as you've seen from the long explanation, it's going to be a very nice building once you get it constructed and everything. But anyway, I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.